Version 2.4 is dropping on March 27 and reverse 1999. 4 characters will see Euphoria upgrades, and we're gonna take a deep look into each and every one of those. Furthermore, we're gonna take a look at what the actual best Euphorias are currently available in the game and how your valuable resources are best spent. So let's start off by looking at Jessica's new Euphoria. Here it is, so let's go over it together. On Euphoria Tier 1 it says, when entering battle and at the end of the round, gains 2 Moss on Stone stacks. After allies actively cast an incantation to attack, if the target is under the poison status, Jessica gains 1 additional Moss on Stone stack. That means that in every single round you get at least 4 stacks for Moss on Stone guaranteed, but you gain additional stacks for each attack incantation that your allies use on a target that is inflicted by poison, that is. So what does Moss on Stone actually do? At the start of the round, if Jessica has 10 Moss on Stone stacks, she inflicts Petrify on the target before her first attack this round. Then you lose all Moss on Stone stacks. So Moss on Stone just means that if you stack it up to 10 times, you petrify an enemy. And yeah, you turn him to stone is what that means. So each round, yeah, you gain 4 for free, and then yeah, so every like second or third round, one enemy will be turned into stone. Furthermore, attacking enemies under the Petrify status will not dispel Petrified. That is very clutch. In the past, whenever an enemy was petrified, turned to stone, and you attacked him, he was freed. He was no longer turned to stone after that, so you had to refrain from attacking him. But now that changed and you can actually attack a petrified target. Alright, Tier 2 Euphoria says, at incantation rank 1, 2 or 3, the max additional reality damage dealt by her spell White Blanky increases in damage numbers. And Petrify stacks are considered 2 additional poison stacks. So yeah, this team, which the team by the way will evolve around Jessica and Druvis, and their attacks profit from the fact that your target, that the enemy target is poisoned, and Petrify now counts as 2 poison stacks. That just helps out a little bit. It is a little bit of a quality of life improvement there, but nothing too special. Tier 3 Euphoria says, when actively attacking an enemy under... Sorry, let me read that again. When actively attacking an enemy under Petrify, this attack's incantation mind is plus 30%. So you attack an enemy under Petrified, you deal 30% more damage, is what that says. Then on Tier 4, when actively attacking an enemy under Petrified, this attack is guaranteed to score critical hits. So yeah, Jessica's role here changed. She was heavily outclassed in the poison department. Jessica and Druvis were used as a poison team in the past, but now with Willow and Tuesday, and also Sotheby's, Euphoria is really crazy good. So point is, Jessica and Druvis are no longer a poison team. They were completely outclassed and therefore kind of irrelevant. But now with this rework and the Euphoria upgrades, both of them are no longer a poison team. They turned into a petrified team, which it doesn't make them like truly amazing, but it gives them viability and a little niche at least. So this Euphoria upgrade made them raise in rank, so to speak, as they came out of irrelevancy and now have a little niche. So how good is this Euphoria upgrade, and would I recommend you going for this? Because keep in mind, the resources spent to max out Euphoria are pretty hard to combine, as you need to go far into the Reveries in the Rain gameplay mode, which is currently the hardest content to beat in the game. And yeah, you have to play this and grind this out and go far there in order to obtain the resources to upgrade your Euphoria. So you should be careful as to what Euphorias you actually go for. And would I recommend you using your valuable resources to upgrade Jessica's Euphoria? I would not recommend that, as there are better Euphorias available in the game, and even in the version 2.4 with the 3 other characters that we're gonna cover in a second, there will be more valuable Euphorias to upgrade there. And that's all about Jessica's Euphoria. If you wanna play her, keep in mind that you not only have to max out her Euphoria, but she has to be paired with Druvis, and Druvis would also need her Euphoria to be maxed out as well. And yeah, as I already said, I would not recommend this at all. I think the value here is way too low to spend as many and as valuable resources on this as you would need to. But that's about it for Jessica. Now let's move on to the next character, which is Voyager. Her tier 1 Euphoria says max Eureka +5. At the start of the round, Eureka +4. When allies deplete Eureka, accumulate inspiration. When entering battle, accumulates 3 inspiration points. Improvised incantation will split every other time it attacks, on the first, on the third, and the 5th attack. It will deal 70% less damage each time to 1 additional enemy target. So what does that mean, right? Let's break this down step by step. So first of all, whenever an ally depletes Eureka, the inspiration is accumulated. So what does inspiration actually do? What is inspiration? Inspiration says, at the start of the round, accumulated inspiration distributes among basic incantations. Each basic incantation can have a maximum of 5 inspiration points, and at the end of the turn, inspiration on unused incantations is cleared. When actively using an incantation with inspiration, an improvised incantation is added to the end of the spell queue, taking inspiration into account. Okay, this sounds pretty complicated, but it is actually not as complicated as it sounds. Let's first of all figure out what an improvised incantation is, and then I will explain things further. Improvised incantation says it's a 1 target attack. It deals 200% mental damage, and this attack additionally deals 15% more mental damage, based on how many inspiration points are accumulated for it. When this attack's inspiration stacks reach 3, 6, 12, 20, then plus 1, 2, 3, 5 attacks of improvised incantation are casted. So let's break this down a little bit. First of all, needless to explain, you need allies. So your Voyager has to be in the correct team. She has to be paired with allies that actually use Eureka. And whenever one of her allies uses Eureka, stacks of inspirations are generated. And those stacks of inspiration, they spread amongst all your incantations in total. And now whenever you use an incantation that has at least 1 stack of inspiration on it, you will create another incantation out of thin air, and that incantation is casted for free. It's just added onto your rotation of incantations for free. You don't have to worry about anything there. It plays itself, so to speak. And that is an incantation that deals additional 200% mental damage. This 200% mental damage can be increased though by having more inspiration stacks than just 1 on an incantation. So again, if an ally uses Eureka, you gain stacks of inspiration. these stacks of inspirations are randomly distributed to all of your other incantations. And now whenever you cast an incantation that has inspiration on it, you deal extra damage with it, so to speak. The more inspiration stacks on that incantation, the more damage, extra damage you deal with it. That's really an easy way to look at it. Okay, so far so good. Now let's look at her tier 2 Euphoria. It says it depletes 2 Eureka after using her spell 1 and spell 2 to increase the number of attacks this turns with improvised incantations by 1. Okay, so when you use incantations with Voyager, these incantations deplete your Eureka. 2, in fact, for each incantation. And remember that each Eureka that depletes accumulates inspiration. So yeah, you just simply play Voyager's incantations to accumulate more stacks of inspiration, and that will increase your overall damage. In addition, this improvised incantations split attacks will target one additional enemy. Okay, yeah, also another thing to keep in mind. The more improvised incantations you cast, so the more incantations with inspiration on it you use, the more and more improvised incantations you will cast. Because yeah, the first improvised incantation that happens just happens, but the second one creates a third one, and then the third one creates a fourth one, and so on and so forth, right? Every second improvised incantation that gets casted creates a third one on top of it. So yeah, the whole point here is to gain these inspiration stacks, spread them all across your incantations, and then use as many incantations as you can with inspiration on it to create as many improvised incantations you can, because the more improvised incantations you create per turn, the more they split, and yeah, they multiply themselves. Okay, now her Euphoria tier 3 says when entering battle you gain Maxi +5, so you immediately have your ultimate ready to go right from the beginning of the battle. And after you cast that ultimate, first of all you gain 1 Moxie, you inflict confusion onto the enemy that you cast your ultimate on, and it inflicts orbital direction on the target for 3 turns. Orbital direction makes it so that your improvised incantations target the enemy with the orbital direction on it. So again, you start the battle with your ultimate, you use your ultimate, and you inflict a debuff onto the target that you use your ultimate on. And all your improvised incantations will now hit this target. And there is more because the target that you hit with your ultimate takes additional Genesis damage. That is Voyager's Euphoria. It is a little bit complicated, but yeah, it sounds way more complicated than it actually is. When the battle starts, you use your ultimate on a target. Then you cast her incantations to generate inspiration. You see how this inspiration spread across your other incantations, and you simply use the incantations that have the most inspiration on it to accumulate as many extra incantations, or improvised incantations as they call it, as possible. And that's how you deal your damage, right? So I already told you that you will have to have allies, that Voyager has to be played in a team with allies that use Eureka. But she's mainly reworked that way because of our new character Baccarola. There's a new character called Baccarola. We call her Barcelona. That releases with version 2.4 on March 27. And this Barcelona character synergizes very well with other characters that use improvised incantations. And that's the whole point of this Euphoria. It's to give Baccarola good allies and make us able to create a team around Baccarola. Because before, there are not many characters, like I think just one. I'm not actually sure if there was even one, but I think there were one or two that used improvised incantations already, but really, like there wasn't a team that you could build around Baccarola. And that's why they reworked Voyager like this, to give her an ally that she synergizes well with. And we can make it short here, because Matilda is another character that gets Euphoria in version 2.4, and it is exactly the same as this Voyager rework here. So Matilda is another character that will synergize very, very well with the new character Baccarola. Although Voyager is the better choice here. Matilda is Voyager, but a little bit worse. So yeah, kinda a budget version if you want to look at it like that. So, how good is this rework, and would I recommend you spend your valuable resources onto Voyager's Euphoria? That solely depends on you. Yeah, that's the easy way out. I know. Would I recommend it? It depends on, first of all, do you want to pull for Baccarola right now or not? That's the first thing that matters. But in 2 or 3, I'm not entirely sure, 2 or 3 more updates, in version 2.6 or 7, there is a new character that will release called Aleph. And he will also be played around and synergize very well with characters that use improvised incantations. So investing into Voyager's Euphoria right now and pulling for Baccarola would be future proof and probably the right way to go. We don't know yet how good exactly Aleph will be though, so yeah, it's a hit or miss right now. Honestly, what I would do is wait a little bit. Don't upgrade Voyager's Euphoria right now. Pull for Baccarola. Just one portrait. You don't have to get any portraits, right? Just make sure you get Baccarola. And then we wait until this new character in 2.7 Aleph releases, and we will see how good he is. And if he is good enough and would be like on top of the meta, then we can invest into Voyager's Euphoria. That's how I would do it. It's up to you though. If you like the new character Baccarola and you plan to pull for her anyways and build a team around her, then this Voyager Euphoria is a must-have. So yeah, you have to make that decision for yourself. If you want my opinion, wait until we have more information about how good Aleph will be in the future. Alright, we almost did it. We covered Jessica, Voyager and Matilda right now, which leaves us with only one character left for version 2.4, and that is Tennant. So let's take a look at her real quick. And after that we're gonna look at what Euphorias are actually the best Euphorias in the game and which one I would highly recommend you invest your resources on. But now it's about Tennant. Her tier 1 Euphoria says, Insight 1 changes 2, when entering battle immediately cast rank 1 EBK of Galaxy. At the start of odd numbered turns gains 1 diamond bullet. Okay. So a bouquet of Galaxy is her buff. She grants a shield to her entire team. So every ally and herself gets a shield. Then at turn 1, 3, 5, 7 and so on. At odd number turns she gains a diamond bullet. What do these bullets do? They decrease your enemy's reality defense. Your enemy's reality defense by 30% every time you attack with Tenant. Then her tier 2 Euphoria says, when casting a Sincere Heart, that's her ultimate, reality damage plus 40% for every type of bullet amongst all allies. So yeah, the more bullets you have stacked, the more damage you deal with your ultimate. Her tier 3 Euphoria says, after any allied action, if Tenant has 2 diamond bullets stacked, she casts a rank 1, a shiny diamond. A shiny diamond is her attack incantation. Her tier 4 Euphoria says, after depleting 2 diamond bullet stacks, Tenant immediately casts a rank 1, a Bouquet of Galaxy. So yeah, she's all about these bullets, and she gets a bullet every other turn, right? Turn 1, turn 3, turn 5, she gains 1 bullet, and she gains an additional bullet by 2 additional bullets actually by using her ultimate ability. So she's all about the synergy with bullets. The big issue here is that she has trouble generating enough bullets. She just doesn't get enough bullets that she would need to get. That's the biggest problem. You would have to use her a lot to generate Moxie and use that ultimate to generate these bullets, but yeah, that is never gonna happen. So the primary usage of Tenant would be to generate shields, right? You have, you cast a Bouquet of Galaxy, which grants shields to your entire team here and there, right? And that would be the biggest and most useful usage of Tenant. There's another big issue here with this, because she is heavily outclassed by a character called Mrs. Bubble. Mrs. Bubble is the number 1 character in the game when it comes to providing shields to your team. Now, the upside for Tenant here is that Mrs. Bubble, now with her Euphoria, again, keep in mind, you would have, if you use Tenant and Mrs. Bubble in one team, which would be the best use for Tenant right now, then you would have to go for 2 Euphorias and max 2 Euphorias out at the same time, which will be really costly. And spoiler alert, this is why I would not recommend maxing out Tenant's Euphoria, because if you want to grant shields to your team, you use Mrs. Bubble for it. There's no question there. Now, Mrs. Bubble's Euphoria makes it so that shields can stack. Before, without Mrs. Bubble's Euphoria, that was not possible. Every time you would use a shield with Mrs. Bubble, it would override other shields that were already there. But now, when you use a shield with Mrs. Bubble, she doesn't override other shields, but they instead stack now. And that would be a way to grant an insane amount of defense and bulk to your team by using the combination of Mrs. Bubble and Tenant together. Now again, I think, and yeah, I'm pretty sure my opinion on this is, that would be overkill. If you want to grant bulk and shields to your team, you use only Mrs. Bubble. There's no need for Tenant. I think using both Mrs. Bubble and Tenant would be a little bit overkill here and too expensive, right? Again, the resources for upgrading Euphoria are not easy to come by, so you should spend them carefully and be sure that you know what you're doing if you spend these resources. And yeah, Tenant is in my opinion not it. But if you say, hey, Tenant is my favorite character, I want to and I will use her no matter what, then pair her with Mrs. Bubble and yeah, pair these two with whatever you want, right? This is just They are there to add bulk and shields to your team. That's it. You need a DPS. Maybe you don't need another. You need a DPS and a sub DPS. That's about it. You don't need a healer. You don't need another support or anything. So, that would be the best use for Tenant. But would I recommend it? No, I wouldn't. If you go for shields, Mrs. Bubble is more than enough. And you don't need Tenant for that. But that's about it. Those were all the 4 Euphorias in detail that we will be getting with the update 2.4 in Reverse 1999. But now, let's take a look real quick at other Euphorias and which Euphorias you should actually spend your resources for. There is one Euphoria you absolutely must have, because it turns her into the second best healer in the game after Faturu, and that's Sotheby. So let's go over it real quick. Her cure gets enhanced. If current HP percentage drops below 40% after being attacked, triggers immediately. Duration decreases by 1 round and it becomes stackable. So before, cure wasn't stackable, it now is. It provides constant healing to your team. The more stacks you have, the more healing you get every single round. And what it means is, that when current HP percentage drops below 40%, you immediately heal, which heats you up above 40%. So when you get attacked again, your HP drops again below 40 and you trigger another free heal, which hits you above 40%. And it keeps going like that. You have free heal after free heal after free heal every time you get attacked, pretty much. That is ridiculous, right? Like these two facts alone make her already like the best healer currently in the game. And when version 2.4 drops at March 27, she becomes the second best healer in the game, because Faturu will be even better. But this is already crazy. Everything else here is just added on top of it. There's one more thing that's actually pretty nuts. So let's just go over the thing that's actually really good here as well. And that is that at the start of the round you grant 1 stack of Duality Potion to yourself. What is that? What is Duality Potion? It says that after attacking, it consumes all stacks. For each stack consumed, applies poison to the target. At the end of the round, target takes Genesis damage equal to 30% of the user's attack for 2 rounds. And now comes the key part. You grant a cure stack to all allies for 2 rounds, and this stacks up to 2 times. So you will always apply 2 stacks of cure to your entire team after you attacked. Every time. You stack up these cures so ridiculously fast, and you do it for absolutely free. And they stack. Like, trust me when I tell you this is currently the best healer in the game, and she's future proof as well. As soon as Faturu comes out, Faturu will be a little bit better than Sotheby. But just by upgrading Sotheby's Euphoria here, you have one of the best healers in the entire game. And after Faturu, there won't be another healer coming out for quite a while. That is safe to say. So if you upgrade a Euphoria, do it for Sotheby. That thing is a must have. If you have Sotheby, you upgrade that Euphoria. Don't even question it. And that's the must have Euphoria for you. Now we move on to a little bit of more niche things, but also very, very strong Euphorias. Don't sleep on those. But you have to fulfill the niche in order for them to actually work. And that's it. That's the best Euphoria in the game currently. And now we will move on to a few more that are a little bit more niche, but also very, very viable. But keep in mind, you have to fulfill the niche if you want to use these to maximum efficiency. And One of those is Eternity. Wait a minute, what is this? Yeah, sorry about that. Here we go. No, I'm just kidding. So let's go into Eternity's Euphoria real quick. First of all, let me say why Eternity is so good. That is because she goes now perfectly and synergizes amazingly with Semmelweis. Semmelweis got a huge buff for the last few updates, and she's actually a really good team right now. And this Euphoria for Eternity is one of the big reasons and one of the biggest buffs that Semmelweis saw. So, what does this Euphoria for Eternity do? It says, when attacking, consumes 10% of all allies' max HP, which is already fantastic because remember, Semmelweis's ulti is all about 10% thresholds of HP that your allies miss. She will deal more and more damage the more and more 10% of HP your allies miss. And yeah, it produces stacks, right? This can stack up to like 40 times or something, and it's huge. And you can already see that Eternity plays perfectly around that and leads to Semmelweis being able to stack up her ultimate really fast and really efficient. But again, Eternity's Euphoria here. After attacking, consumes 10% of all allies' max HP and deals extra Genesis damage equal to 7% of all allies' combined max HP to the target. That does not consume HP for allies with 50% of current HP or less. Additionally, when entering battle, increases max HP of other allies by 5% of Eternity's max HP. At the start of the round, for every 10% of max HP missing from all allies, their damage taken is reduced by 5%, and this goes up to a maximum of 25%. Again, Semmelweis's ultimate does the exact same thing, and Eternity just stacks onto that even more. It's a match made in heaven here. But there's more. When allies attack, for every 10% XP, max HP missing, you see the trend here, they gain plus 4% critical rate and 6% critical damage. And this stacks up to 5 times. Again, exactly what Semmelweis's ultimate does as well. You know, they cannot be separated anymore. If you play one of them, you play both. There's no way around it. If current HP percentage is below 50%, excess critical rate converts to critical damage. So yeah, it is absolute perfection. And if you play Semmelweis or Eternity, you play the other. Like, it is just perfect. But keep in mind that this is completely useless and would even hurt your team. So you have to play this Eternity with Semmelweis. She's unusable for any other character, for any other team. It's only made for Semmelweis. That is something that you have to keep in mind, and this is why I mentioned this one here as a niche, right? Because if you don't want to play Semmelweis, then you can completely ignore Eternity, and that's how it goes. So let's move on. And we will move on to our last entry, which is the aforementioned Mrs. Bubble. So yeah, she's just here to spam a ridiculously high amount of shields and stack them onto each other. So let's read her Euphoria right now. It's when casting a new wave, that's a buff that grants a shield to all of your allies. If the target already has a shield, it stacks in new waves onto the existing shield. This cannot exceed 200% of the original shield's maximum value. And that's the big deal here. Before, she could not stack her own shields and she would override other shields with her own one. But now, she can stack her own shields on top of each other, and she can also stack her shields together with other characters' shields. So this is absolutely amazing, and this is what makes her a really, really strong character, and the second best Euphoria you can go for, unless you want to go for the Eternity niche that I just explained. Furthermore, when allies attack, critical rate increases. Critical rate increases by 1% for each 300 shield value currently possessed. So you will always have at least 3 to 4% critical rate increase to your entire team there. And a new wave. That just explains what a new wave is. Yeah, that is just a shield. Let me still read it though. So a new wave is shield value increases by an additional 40%. That's the buff. Exactly, I forgot about that, sorry. So yeah, she had a shield before. This is now buffed by 40%. So her shields are even bigger than they ever were before. By 40% bigger. This is huge. Furthermore, it increases the counter damage of all allies by 25%. When an ally is attacked, immediately triggers a rank 1 shield, and this can only happen once per round. After allies have countered 3 times, immediately triggers another rank 1, a new wave, up to twice per round. So you can, once every round, you can stack up to 3 shields for free. Although to make that a reality, you would have to play her with characters that use counter incantations. The best example here would be Jay. But keep in mind, you don't have to do that actually to make Mrs. Bubble worthwhile, because her ultimate is a counter incantation by itself. And not only that, it provides you taunt. So once you use the ultimate with Mrs. Bubble, every enemy will always attack her, and that leads to her ultimate triggering the counter effect, which that leads to you casting a shield onto every single ally, and that goes up to twice per round, and you do this for 3 turns after you casted her ultimate. And yeah, that's her whole point. You stack up shield after shield after shield onto your entire team, and you are self-sustainable. You can be played in every single team out there. You can just slot Mrs. Bubble in, and she will greatly increase the bulk and the defensive values of your team drastically. Of course, yeah, having other characters that use counters would be beneficial, but again, very important, that is not a must-have. Mrs. Bubble does everything she does, and she provides everything that she needs to herself, right? She's a standalone character that can be slotted into every single team, and this is why this is such high value. You would never go wrong by actually investing into upgrading her Euphoria. So yeah, that's it about the video, right? We covered now everything. Again, what Euphorias are the best in the game and which ones would I recommend? Sotheby is an absolute must-have. After Sotheby, you would go for Mrs. Bubble. Mrs. Bubble, this character right here. Or if you are a fan of Eternity and or Semmelweis, if you play, for example, a Semmelweis team anyways, then you cannot go past Eternity. This is an absolute must-have if you play Semmelweis. But yeah, again, Sotheby, Mrs. Bubble, and Voyager, those 3 are the Euphorias that I would recommend you go for. With Voyager you could wait, but Sotheby and Mrs. Bubble, you should, if you have these characters available, go for the Euphoria. Like, you cannot possibly go wrong there. And yeah, additionally, Voyager, that is future proof, and if you do so, then make sure you get at least 1 copy of Baccarola as well, and then save up for version 2.7 and get yourselves Aleph. And yeah, that's all about it. That's all I wanted to talk about. I hope that was informative and fun. If you like reverse 1999 content in general, please consider leaving a follow on my channel. I would really appreciate it. But until next time, take care of yourselves, have a great day, and bye bye.